Hi everybody, welcome to the 19th episode of Ponderosa North. Man, it's been a good time. But today it's going to be like just sort of a fun kind of thing that I sort of came up with called Bonanza Bits. And there'll be many of these because there's quite a few things that I can't make a whole show out of, but there's lots of little things that I want to bring to the front. And the first thing I'll start with is this little gem. You remember these when we were kids? Viewmasters. Yeah, they had these little cartridges that you'd stick into the viewer. Remember these? Well, in Bonanza's case, the boys were a little bit naughty. I'm going to show up a picture here, and you can see if you can tell me why. This is one of the slides in the Viewmaster. If you'll notice, they're flipping the bird. All of them. Here's a close-up of Mike and Purnell. Seriously? And this series of photos even made it onto a magazine. Look at Purnell's finger. How did this get past? I mean, this is 1965 or something. They were very naughty that day. Maybe it was a long day and they got called into this photo shoot and thought, I want to go home. I don't know what caused it. But interesting, if you can find a Viewmaster, you can flip through and see them all. I want to pay a note to Bill Clark. He was on 141 episodes of Bonanza. Here's Bill. Yeah, he's in a posse or in the town or in the saloon. Sometimes he had lines, sometimes not. So keep an eye out for Bill, along with Betty Endicott and Bobby Miles, the three of them. Make a drinking game out of that. I also want to mention that some of the comments I've gotten are fantastic, but where they're coming from is even more interesting. Obviously from the US and Canada and the UK, but I've gotten lots of other places that of note: Netherlands, South America, Austria, Norway. The scope and the reach of the show is just amazing. It's global. Let's face it. Even when I talk to my young nieces and nephews of today, I mentioned Bonanza, they still know what that is. They've heard of it, so it's not completely out of the realm of their understanding. And that being said, when you are voted off the island on Survivor, you are voted onto the Ponderosa. That is their home base. They have named it the Ponderosa. I don't know if people realize the reference to Bonanza, but there you go. Another fairly modern nod to the show is in Django Unchained. Here's Jamie Foxx. And Quentin Tarantino made no bones about the fact that here he is with a Little Joe's hat from the very beginning, but the wardrobe for Django was totally Little Joe. Look at that. That's a great nod to the show. I'm not sure if people recognize that, but I certainly did. Another little snippet here is the name of Jamie's horse was Pee-wee. There's Mitch Vogel with a model of his horse, Pee-wee. Purnell's salary when he left the show was distributed between Lorne and Dan and Mike. They didn't absorb his salary, they spread the wealth. So Lorne and Dan and Mike got a nice raise when Purnell left. David Canary was in a contract dispute. He was in series 67 and 70, and he missed a season, and he came back to return in 72 and the last season. So I guess they settled his dispute. And when Johnny Carson asked Michael Landon what was the first thing he bought when he had money and he could splurge a little bit, you'd think he'd say, a Porsche, or I bought a house for my mom, or something like that. No, Michael Landon said he bought a salami. And he hung it in his wardrobe and would lop off a piece. And Johnny Carson said, why would you buy, why was that the first thing? And he said, I love salami. And it was expensive. Let's face it, it's expensive now. So he loved salami, and that's what he wanted. And olives. He wanted salami and olives. Well, no sweet tooth there for Michael Landon. Here is another nod to this show on The Simpsons. The Cartwright family, with Adam included. I don't know why. This was what gets me. Whenever you see pictures or references to the show, Adam is always there. He was gone 8 years, but why isn't Candy in there? I'm not sure. But a nice nod to the show there on The Simpsons. There was a question about the sexes of the horses. They're all geldings. You can tell the sexes of the horses by the names of the horses. Buck, Cochise, Sport, and Chubby. Gelding, there are no mares in the bunch. Geldings, if you don't know what a gelding is, it's a castrated horse. Michael Landon, whenever I see pictures of him, he is photographed with babies more than anybody I can think of. I mean, I know he had a lot of children, and I think by the time of his death he had 3 or 4 grandchildren. But holy cow, I mean, look at all these pictures of Michael Landon and babies. Tons and tons. Oh, there's more. Here he is. More he loved babies, and apparently they loved him. Look at, oh, so sweet. Also want to talk to you about Lorne Greene and in the beginning with his horse Buck. Now, this is the first time it looks like he's ever been on a horse, and here he is at a full gallop, hanging on for dear life, and good for him. But what's so wonderful is that, remember I was telling you before how it takes hundreds and hundreds of hours to gain trust and a relationship with the horse. Well, look at this. Look at him. He's just so perfect seat. Everything. He must have taken, look at his heels. Heels down. He looks fantastic. And talk about comfort. Here he is by the end of the series. Foot flung over the saddle. Buck doesn't care. They're complete friends. There's complete trust there. Quite a contrast to when they first met some 14 years before. And that begs the question of how much did they like their horses? I mean, when you spend that much time with an animal, you get attached. I don't care what anybody says. You get attached to that animal. And obviously Dan loved Chubby. Look at that. I mean, you can't hide it. You can't hide the affection. And Mike with Cochise. And here's a couple more of Michael. He really loved his horses, and I wondered when Purnell left if he missed his horse. Here he is giving him a nice stroke on the nose. He must have. I would have loved to have asked him if he missed the horse, because you do get attached to them. You can't not get attached to them. So I'm going to leave you with one last thing on this edition of Bonanza Bits. And that's my favorite scene of the whole series. It takes place in the Toy Soldier, and Adam rides up and he gets off his horse and he walks over to his brothers and he takes a little bit of water out of the trough and sort of pats his face and he says to his brothers, well, it's really hot today, isn't it? And little Joe says, well, I guess it depends on what kind of work you're doing. And Adam says, well, I've been out on that hot, dusty road with that terrible wind blowing in my face. I can't even get through it without laughing. And he says, what have you guys been doing? And Haas says, oh, nothing. Just working over that fire over there, fixing wagon wheels. And Adam says, well, you're lucky, because much better than riding on that hot, dusty road with that terrible wind blowing in my face. Well, hilarity ensues. It's a wonderful scene that just shows the relationship between all 4 of them, really. And let's just say they both take a bath. So check that out when you get a chance. It's the first scene of The Toy Soldier. That's it for this edition of Bonanza Bits. There'll be quite a few more, and we'll see you next time on Ponderosa North for the love of Bonanza.